Behind me are two nearly identical mountain bikes, and we're gonna be upgrading them to become high performance bikes. My bike gets cheap upgrades, and I get top of the line expensive upgrades. All this to answer one question: does expensive equal better? Let's find out. We're back, High-Low Season 2, baby. We gotta lighten this thing up. You're already complaining? Man, this is gonna be a long season. Here we are again, Season 2 of High-Low. And we got these bikes mail delivered, pretty easy to assemble, and they come pre-tuned, so out of the box, we could absolutely go ride these things right now. But there's a few little upgrades that I wanna do that's gonna drastically improve these bikes. Upgrading your mountain bike is done for various reasons. One, performance. If you're looking to go faster, ride longer, and have more fun, upgrades are the way to go. Come on. Two, starting with an affordable bike and upgrading over time has a lower cost of entry into the sport of mountain biking. And customizing your bike over time is a great way to learn about working on bikes. Plus, it's just super satisfying to have the bike grow with you as you become a better rider. And three, upgrades allow you to personalize your bike and make you look damn cool. Wait, looking cool, really? Yeah, that's the most important part of mountain biking. Oh man, here we go again. Let's talk about the rules of Season 2 of High-Low, and we're doing it a little bit differently from the last. The goal here is to upgrade both these bikes to make them fast, time attack bikes, able to shatter PRs and break KOMs while still being fun and comfortable. All the testing will take place right here in the mountain bike capital of the world, Bentonville, Arkansas. Bentonville, mountain bike capital of the world? Nah, man, that's Whistler. Yeah, I felt a little bit dirty saying that, but is Whistler even open yet? Whatever, man. Last season, we had two identical bikes and upgraded them each episode, and High Bike basically blew the low bike out of the water. The expensive upgrades combined together to create a ride feel that the low bike just couldn't match. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that one. So this season, after each episode, we are going to return the bikes back to stock with a few exceptions. And at the end of the season, we'll install all the upgrades on each bike for an absolute showdown, high versus low, so he can see once and for all that expensive parts are always the way to go. Yeah, we'll see. I got some tricks up my sleeve for this season, but let's show you guys the bikes. All right, let's do it. With mountain biking, there's many different kinds of bikes, and choosing the right one to fit your needs is extremely important. There's hardtails, a bike that only has suspension in the front, and then you have your full suspension mountain bike with, you guessed it, suspension front and rear. There's four subcategories of full suspension: XC, trail, enduro, and downhill. Each of those have a very distinct feeling. XC bikes are made to pedal but have less suspension when the trail gets rough. Downhill bikes have long suspension and are made to fly downhill over the roughest terrain, but you wouldn't want to climb one. Enduro bikes are almost as capable as downhill bikes, but they're able to climb. And then you have trail bikes. What we'll be using, a bike that's a jack of all trades, master of none, good at climbing, jumping, single track, and downhill. The gray one is a Polygon Siskiyou T6, and the yellow one is a T7, so just one step above. They're nearly identical, but we'll talk about that in a second. But most importantly, they both have 29-inch wheels, 140 millimeters of travel, and they're affordably priced. The most important thing with these bikes is that they check all the must-haves for a modern mountain bike. Dropper post, air sprung suspension front and rear, hydraulic disc brakes, tubeless ready tires, derailleur with a clutch, and boost through axle front and rear. With all those features, these bikes are ready for all the fancy upgrades, because I got a lot coming with no worries about compatibility. But there's a problem, but don't worry, I have a solution. These bikes aren't quite identical, and for this to be a good high-low test, these bikes need to be as close as possible, and the T7 has more gears, better brakes, and a better rear shock. Bro, that ruins the whole high versus low test. We might as well just cancel this whole season then. Well, I came prepared. So on the T6, I'm gonna throw on a spare 12-speed that I have on hand, and then I'll take an SR Suntour rear shock and install it on the T7, plus swap out the brakes, and our bikes should basically be identical. Phew, that was a bit of work to get everything swapped over, and I wasn't able to swap over the rear brake on this one, so I'm gonna have mismatched brakes, a Tektro 2-piston in the back and a Shimano 2-piston in the front. That's close enough though. Mismatched brakes? Ugh, how cringe. Well then no worries, you get the gray one. What? I wanted the colorful one. So let's get to the first upgrade, tires. And choosing the correct tire is one of the most impactful upgrades you can install on your bike, but it's one of the most misunderstood. Most stock bikes have a tire and a tube, and the tube holds air. If you puncture that tube, well, it doesn't hold air anymore and you either gotta patch it or walk home. Going tubeless means that you take a tubeless ready tire, rip out that tube, add valves and sealant, then inflate the tire to snap onto the bead of the rim, forming a tight seal, no more need for a tube. Then if you get a puncture, the sealant will automatically find that hole and seal it up permanently, and over time, you could potentially have hundreds of punctures and not know about it. There's also a huge performance benefit of going tubeless. It makes your bike faster. To test that, we rode both bikes. One was tubeless and one had tubes, and we did 3 climbs and 3 downhill flow trails on each bike. And the tubeless bike not only felt lighter, it was faster overall, and that's because a little thing called friction. When you're rolling on the trail, the tire is deforming to the terrain, and then when you have a tube in there, the tube is also deforming, but causing friction against the tire, which means more rolling resistance and a slower tire. Plus, a tube is heavy. It weighs about a ½ pound, and it's the worst kind of weight, rotational mass. So if you get rid of this thing, you'll have better handling. These stock tires are the V-Flow Snap. They're tubeless ready, but they weigh like 1,300 grams. That's pretty heavy for a tire. The casing is pretty thick, and I would call these enduro tires. And these tires will not only feel slow because of the low rolling resistance, but they'll have less traction because the thick tire deforms less on my local trails. It's not that steep or rough here in Bentonville. Plus, I'm no enduro or downhill pro. Wait, what do you mean? I run downhill tires on every bike that I own. If you were going the speeds that I go, you would understand, bud. The first step with choosing the correct tires is being honest with yourself. We're on trail bikes riding local, low-key trails, so going with these trail tires makes the most sense. These are the Specialized Eliminator Grid T9. They're 29 by 2.3 inch trail casing, soft compound, weighing about 1,000 grams a piece. And the best thing is, Specialized is almost always running sales on their tires. Each one of these was $40 a piece, man. And the cool thing about a lighter casing tire like this is the tire will deform a little bit easier. So on my local trails, that means better traction, but it's also more prone to pinch flats. Well, that's cool, but what tires do I get? You can go ahead and run those stock enduro tires that you like, and I'll go ahead and install these tires and we can see how much difference it makes. Wow, dude, this is way lighter. Whoa. I don't think the high bike is gonna be able to keep up this episode. Overall with these tires, I saved 840 grams. That's like 2 pounds. And that's reducing the rotational weight, so that's really gonna help. If you're like me, you're prone to slipping pedals, and catching a pedal to the shin is 100 times more painful than childbirth. That's a fact. So I like to throw on a nice set of pedals, even on a brand new bike. These are the 1UP aluminum pedals that I bought for $150. These are gorgeous pedals with great machining, and look at all these long pins. Man, that would mess up your shins. But with these, we're not gonna slip pedals anymore because my shoes are gonna be glued to these things. My budget doesn't allow me to get $150 pedals. I'm trying to keep low bike at about $3,000 for the whole series, so I went with a budget version of Chad's pedals, the 1UP composite pedals. They were just $40 and they're 24 grams lighter than Chad's pedals, but the pins aren't as long, so we'll see if they grip as well. Last up, I like to accessorize, so I picked up a 1UP EDC light, and this is a tool that stashes away in your steer tube, so you don't have to carry one in your backpack or your pocket. Oh, nice, man. Let me see that. I've never seen one of those before. Don't you gotta like cut the threads in your steer tube to install this thing? Nah, dude, this is the light version. You just gotta hammer your star nut down a ways, and then you slide this little plastic thing down in there, tighten the star nut like normal, and we have a way to carry our multi-tool. Only took a couple minutes. That's pretty cool, man. I always wanted one of those, but for this project, I don't quite have the budget for accessories, but luckily my bike came with a pedal wrench and a multi-tool, so this should do. Oh, and one last thing. Wait, you're still going? How much did you spend? Yeah, dude. I bought a 1UP bash guide for $100. This helps keep the chain on and protect the chainring from impacts as I'm smashing through rock gardens. Then if I get a flat, I need a way to carry my CO2, so I bought a Lezyne tubeless flow storage for 65 bucks. That way, I'm prepared for anything that happens on the trail. Dude, with all those accessories, you're just adding weight. Your bike is gonna be way slower than mine, dude. This guy, you're one of those unprepared guys, huh? Well, don't come crying to me when your bike breaks then. All right, the bikes are nearly ready to go. Chad just has to finish installing his fancy accessories. I'm going. And then we'll be ready for the trail test. What's better, trail tires or enduro tires? Expensive pedals or cheap pedals? Accessories or no accessories? I can't wait to find out. So the plan today is to test our upgrades in 4 areas: climbing, braking, roll speed, and grip. And remember, after each episode, I'm returning these bikes back to stock, except the tires. Whatever bike wins today, we're gonna use those tires on both bikes for the rest of the season. Oh, I'm gonna win enduro tires all day, baby. What's the first test? Up first is the climb. Damn it. For the first test, we'll be climbing bush push. This short, grueling climb has up to a 30% grade, and I guess was popularized by President Bush climbing this on his bike in his 60s. All right, here we go. Oh, this bike feels heavy. Almost there. I'm dying. Dude, I can do that climb on my XC bike no problem, but with this heavy, basically stock trail bike, man, that was rough. And Chad's bike is even heavier. Why is this the first test? I hate climbing. Here goes nothing. Oh. Ah. Oh man, he's already struggling. Oh, I can't do it. Good work, man. That was a hard climb for sure. This bike is too heavy, man. So that was pretty conclusive to me. We both did 2 climbs up this, and high bike with the heavy tires was just not fun to climb. Yeah, I'm never doing that again. Low bike got a time of 55 and 58 seconds, and high bike couldn't quite make it. With walking, the times were 1 minute 4 seconds and 1 minute 53 seconds. Dude, that wasn't even fair though. I didn't think that was quite a fair test for climbing, so I took the times from the other climbing that we did today on the easier, longer trail called Lombard, and low bike averaged 3 minutes 17 seconds, and surprisingly, high bike averaged 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Despite being way heavier. See, I won the climb. Dude, not so fast. I think you were more rested and probably were trying harder, and we don't have a power meter to see just how hard you're pushing on the pedals. So just based on feel and these bush push numbers, I think low bike wins this one. Whatever, man, I hate climbing. I just shuttle to the top. The next test is braking. For this one, we're going down bush push, and we'll both get 2 attempts. The bike with the shortest stopping distance wins. All right. The big benefit of thick enduro tires is you have more traction while braking, plus my tread is more aggressive, so I think I got this one in the bag. All right, downhill. This is steep with these cheap brakes. Oh man, that didn't stop so well. Drop a cone right there. Man, I know everybody likes to say Bentonville is smooth as glass, but this trail is chewed up, man. My turn, let's hit this. Full power braking. Whoa. Oh yeah, man. If we average those two together, I got you beat. That's 1-1. Enduro tires. High bike on top. Let's go. Oh wait, I gotta get my bike. All right, we are tied, but the next test should be interesting. Welcome to the castle. First up is Medieval, a downhill jump trail with a bunch of jumps and turns. With both bikes, we'll take only one pedal at the top, and the rest of the way, we gotta muscle our bikes to maintain speed and to be able to hit all the jumps. We're both pretty gassed from that bush push, so 2 runs each, best average time wins. All right, here we go. I love this trail. My bike is making noises. I think my rotor is warped or something. Hey, don't let Evan fool you. He is quick on this trail. He actually holds the king of the mountain on this segment, Medieval. These tires feel good though. Whoa. Oh yeah. Nice. Man, this bike is a drastic improvement with these tires. Way less rolling resistance. And the cool thing is, I thought these were trail tires, but they're a little stiffer than that. They're like enduro light tires. These have like the grip and the give that enduro tires have, just way less weight. The pedals are pretty grippy so far, not as good as the high bike, and the bike being all rattly. I don't know what happened with that front rotor there, but overall, I'm right at home on this bike. All right, man, I have your times. Both runs were 39 seconds, a full second faster than the stock bike with tubes. Heck yeah, man, already an improvement. All right, man, you're up next, good luck. All right, it's my turn to go. I'm pumped because I just had to use my 1-Up EDC. My grip was loose, but I don't know why I'm nervous, man. I ride Rampage and Whistler all the time. It doesn't help that Evan gave me a cheaper bike. Hey, no excuses, the bikes are identical. I'm still gonna send it though. Yeah. Oh, he took a pedal, what a cheater. Feels like I'm going kind of slow. Hopefully I can jump this. Yeah. Oh yeah. Style for miles. That was pretty fast, I respect it. Dang man, that was wild. I think I won that for sure. But these pedals, super grippy, man. And I don't know, I rode the low bike. This bike feels more like a complete package, you know, with the tires and with the kind of heavier bike. I like it, man. Let's see what the times are though. So we know my time's 39:19 average and stock times with tubes are 40:34. Well, your times, oh yeah, I gave you a run for your money. I don't know, man, that looks slower. The times don't lie. Your first run was a 40:20 and the second, a 40:09. So just a quarter second improvement from running the tubes. So my tires definitely roll faster, making this test 2-1. It's all good, I only ride double blacks. What's the last test? Last up is grip, and you have a good chance of winning this one. We're going down a trail called Dragon Scales, a black diamond with great chunky rock gardens, loose turns, and square edges, just waiting to slice your tires. 2 runs, average best time wins. Heck yeah, man, I'm going first this time. This is my kind of trail. Yeah. Oh, my foot moved. I can't get it back. Ah. These tires feel sick. So supple and soft. Yeah. Oh. Oh, yeah. Time. Good work, Chad. I didn't actually think he could ride that good. Dang, dude, did you see that? Man, these Enduro tires feel awesome. I never lost traction at all. I can carve the turns and it just feels really supple. I love Enduro tires, man. But my pedals are making a weird noise. I don't know what that's about. I have a pedal washer on there, so I'll have to check into that. I mean, I'm pretty hard on bikes. I'm basically a pro. All right, here we go. Yeah. All right. Oh. Yeah. Oh. Oh man, he's being way too cautious right now. I would have sent that for sure. Oh. Oh yeah, and time. Good run, man, good run. I'm gonna destroy his times. So that went okay. These tires are a little bit looser than the stock tires. I could feel it, I was losing traction a little bit, and it was more likely to have a rim strike. And rim strikes are okay as long as you're not destroying your rim, you know? But there's a problem here. If you look at my drivetrain, something is wrong here. Yeah, I don't know what it is with this Dior derailleur. It is, I mean, this is a new bike and the thing is not holding tension that well. It just kind of sloppy, and I guess I should have had a chain guide like the high bike, you know, but overall, it's okay. So high bike set a reasonable 1 minute 7 seconds, while the low bike with the lighter tires, both runs set a time of 1 minute 5 seconds, 2 seconds faster than the high bike, dude. No way, how? No clue, man, the times don't lie, but I can't definitively say that trail tires are better. Yeah, you can't say that with all these short tests. Maybe definitively for these trails that we're riding. It all depends on what you ride. If you're getting a ton of rim strikes and pinch flats, Enduro tires are probably what you should be running. Yeah, they have more rolling resistance, but if you're riding something super steep, well then who cares about rolling resistance? But overall, episode 1, low bike wins 3-1. So moving forward, both bikes are gonna be running these specialized tires. The biggest complaint last season was that I used tires that were just a little bit different on both bikes. So this season, we're going with the exact same tires. Hey, and if you wanna check out these polygons or any of the parts used in the video, I'll have a link in the description. I'll even have a coupon code for you. Nice work, man. You're such an influencer. Well, I gotta pay for this stuff somehow. What is that? How much did you spend? Hey, future Evan here. Now that I've already filmed the entire series, my opinion has kind of changed on some of these parts. So in between episodes, I'll kind of go over my insights after the fact. I know that I said that the composite pedals didn't grip very well compared to the aluminum, but after a full season of testing, I did not slip a pedal, not even once. And I'm pretty surprised about that because the pins are just so much longer on the aluminum pedals. Yeah, the aluminum pedals did squeak a little bit, and I tried to fix that in the next episode coming up in this video, but I did it incorrectly. So if you have that problem too, just Google 1UP pedal squeak fix. Just don't copy what I did. But before we get to next episode, I want to tell you about this video's sponsor, Bamboo Labs, a company that makes 3D printers. I've been hesitant about getting a 3D printer for years now because I don't feel like I have the time or the knowledge to learn how to design the 3D parts. But Seth just did a video 3D printing stuff and showed all these websites with free files that you can download from, like a website called Maker World that you can get pre-made free files. And that's all I needed to know. I'm ready to get into 3D printing, and I want to make tool holders for my tool board back there to upgrade my garage shop.
This is the Bambu Labs A1 Combo 3D printer. I've been told this is a great and affordable 3D printer to start with. It did require a bit of assembly. It took less than 30 minutes, and it's easier than any DIY bike work that we're used to doing. The printer has multicolor printing and a full auto calibration. I ordered a bunch of different PLA filaments, and Bambu Labs sells a whole slew of different kinds of filaments to choose from. So the very first thing that I want to print is a tool holder from my most used tool, my rubber mallet. I found this on Maker World completely free, and then I downloaded the Bambu Studio application and I imported it. You can even do this on mobile with the Bambu Handy app and print off your phone, which is just wild how far 3D printing has come. It's easier than ever now. All the information in the print is already there with the file, and all I had to do was calibrate the printer, make sure the filament was all loaded, and just hit print. I've never used a 3D printer before, and it was so easy. And me and the kids had a fun time watching it get printed. It was pretty cool. So then I looked up some more files and made a super big batch to print, and 3 hours later I had all sorts of hooks for my tool wall. In fact, I just kept printing more and more tool holders for 12 hours, and my tool wall is looking way neater and I feel way better about the space, and I'm just getting started. Overall, this Bambu Labs A1 Combo 3D printer is amazing, super easy to use, really good quality prints, and a perfect 3D printer for beginners. And I can already tell I'm gonna be obsessed with printing a bunch of stuff for a while. But if you wanna get one for yourself, I'll have a link in the description. Bambu Labs has some great deals going on right now. And now, back to High-Low Episode 2, Suspension.
This is a set of fully electronic suspension that I just bought for $2,800. And this is a set of used suspension that I just bought for $500. But just because this costs 6 times as much, does that mean it's 6 times better? Today, we're installing our suspension upgrades on these identical polygons to see how they perform on the trail. All this to answer one question: does expensive equal better? Let's find out. Welcome to High-Low. Upgrading your suspension is one of the easiest upgrades for your bike. Better suspension is smoother and it reduces rider fatigue, and it has better tire contact on the ground, leading to better traction. Better suspension gives you better handling, which means going faster on the trail. So I bought this RockShox Lyric and Super Deluxe Flight Attendant for $2,800. Dude, you have some expensive tastes. I know, right? KOMs, here I come. Well, I bought this, a RockShox Lyric Select Plus and a Fox Float X used for just $500. Oh, I've heard bad things about those. Which one? All of it. Well, on paper, our suspension is actually pretty similar, but why is there such a big difference in price? Well, I think the major differences will be on the trail and maybe during the install. Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's I'm going first. Here's a damage report from episode 1. High Bike had some squealing pedals. Come to find out that's pretty common with 1UP, but they have a fix. They say to take this little washer off and remove this O-ring, and the problem solved. Low Bike's chain fell off, and it turns out the chain was too long, so I removed a link. And then Low Bike has a warp rotor, which I bent back in place with a rotor truing tool. Lastly, High Bike lost episode 1, so I installed specialized eliminator tires, so both bikes will have the same tires moving forward for consistency. Here we go again, the big install, High-Low Season 2. And swapping forks is pretty easy, pretty much anybody can do it. We do it all the time on pretty much every bike. Just a few bolts to the stem, few bolts to the brake caliper, and the fork comes right off. Then only 2 bolts on the rear shock, it's really that simple. You might have to press in or out some shock bushings, but when you have all the right tools, it makes for a pretty easy job that you can do in just about an hour. Here's all 3 of our forks, the stock fork and the high and low bike fork. And from an outsider, these forks might all look the same. They're black, they have a crown, stanchions, and lowers. They all have 140 millimeters travel with a through axle, and they absorb bumps. So why would I spend money to upgrade? The stock RockShox Recon is an entry-level fork. It's heavy, weighing 2,510 grams. It's mostly made out of steel, even the stanchions, which are 32 millimeters. This fork may be strong, but it's also very flexy, and that can restrict the fork moving up and down. Plus the seals and internals aren't that great at quality, leading to something called stiction. Think of stiction as the seals getting stuck to the stanchion. With the Recon, it takes a decent amount of force to overcome the stiction and start compressing. Compared to the low bike fork, this one takes a lot less to start compressing. If you've ever been riding down an easy trail or a gravel road and you're just getting rattled, look down to see if your suspension is moving up and down, and if not, you'd probably benefit from a fork upgrade. At the very least, servicing the fork that you have. But I don't mess around with cheap forks. I only settle for the best. And this RockShox Lyric Ultimate with flight attendant, it's almost a pound lighter. And sure, the electronics make it a little bit heavier, more on that later. It has 35mm aluminum stanchions with magnesium lowers, and mine has bleed ports. Cool, what do those do? I don't know, look cool? My fork is used. It might even be 5 years old. It's a RockShox Lyric Select Plus. That's the lightest out of all of our forks at 2,020 grams. It also has 35mm aluminum stanchions, very stiff, and magnesium lowers, just like the high bike. When it comes to suspension and ugly friends, it's what's on the inside that matters. Inside the forks, one side has a damper and the other an air spring. With the stock Recon, it has a very simple damper that does a decent job at absorbing bumps, but can leave a lot to be desired. A high-end damper has an intricate circuit for the oil to pass through, able to distinguish between small bumps or huge impacts. With the small bumps, you basically barely feel them, and big hits feels like landing on a pillow. These dampers also keep your wheel firmly planted on the ground for increased traction. Lastly, the highest end damper has a lot of adjustments so you, the rider, can dial in your suspension to perfection. So my fork comes with a Charger 3 damper, the newest, latest and greatest damper. It's basically like riding on a cloud, plus it has butter cups, which are these little rubber cups at the bottom of the damper in the air shaft, and they eliminate trail chatter by 20%. So that means less hand and forearm fatigue. Dude, I got some bad news for you. Your fancy fork that you got there, I just looked it up, has the older generation Charger 2.1 damper. What? Yeah, dude, that's the same damper that's in my fork. How could they do this? This costs $2,800. I don't know, man, that's wild. So my Lyric Select Plus is the older generation, but has a Charger 2.1 damper, the same thing, which surprisingly, people have said that they prefer the older generation. They prefer the 2.1 over the newest 3. So I'm riding something old and not new? Yeah, man, you're on old stuff. Poor you. So that means the only thing that mine is missing that high bike has is his has buttercups. So we'll see if that makes a difference. But the thing with used suspension is that you have to put in some work to make sure it's running good. And that means taking it apart, checking the seals, and maybe replacing the oil. All right, man, this fork is looking pretty good. I don't remember when the owner said it was serviced last, but it must have been recent because these seals are fresh. So I'm just gonna get it cleaned up, add some oil, and I'd say this fork is in really good condition. No, it's not. What do you mean? Dude, you have a chip in your stanchion. This thing is ruined, man. You got ripped off. Dang, man, that sucks. I didn't realize that when I bought it, but I mean, it's not that big. My fingernail's not getting hung up on it or anything, but I'm just gonna have to run it. All right, that was super easy, and maybe that looks scary if you haven't done it before, but I'm thinking this fork should be a huge performance upgrade, especially since the internals are the same as the high bike. Hey, not so fast, Junior. I have flight attendant, and this is a new technology that uses a crank sensor that knows when you're pedaling and stiffens up the suspension with an 80 millisecond response time. If your bike turns downhill, well, then it opens up the suspension. Well, if that flight attendant is the only reason why your stuff costs so much, you better be way faster than me on our time runs. Oh, it will, but let me get this thing installed. With the stock Recon, I installed the 1UP EDC Lite. but only because the steer tube was too short. With this new fork, I get to remove the star nut and install a 1-up EDC threadless because this steer tube is long enough. So now I can stash a multi-tool plus tire levers and a plug kit. I'm ready for anything. Dang it, man, the flight attendant electronic stuff, it's not even working. More money, more problems, right? All right, broke boy, but yeah, it's the pedal sensor. I think it only works for SRAM cranks. How? I see it's mounted in the Shimano cranks. Well, if I pedal it forward, it thinks I'm backpedaling and it's not locking out the suspension, so I need to install some SRAM cranks so I can move that sensor to the other side. All right, but no carbon cranks, those are for another episode. All right, GX cranks it is. When it comes to upgrading your rear shock, it can get confusing with the eyelet hardware. Big Suspension will tell you that you have to buy new hardware with the little shaft and spacers, or you could just reuse what's on the stock shock. That's how it's always worked for me. But you might notice something much different about our upgraded shocks here compared to the stock. This one has a piggyback. With an inline shock, we have a piston that moves up and down through a single oil chamber restricted by compression and rebound valves. In a piggyback shock, the oil is pushed into a reservoir with another set of compression and rebound valves. This reduces the chance of heat buildup called shock fade. Inline shocks are cheaper, they're much lighter, but they are more prone to shock fade, whereas piggybacks have more oil volume so they don't heat up as easily, but they are heavier and more expensive. Overall, we probably don't need piggybacks with our 1 minute long downhills here in Bentonville, but I am a heavier rider at 190 pounds. Plus, it's only 120 grams extra. For a piggyback, that's barely anything. Yeah, I'm no weight weenie like him. I'm going for performance only. So my rear shock is a RockShox Super Deluxe Flight Attendant with an RC3 damper weighing 576 grams. And my shock is the Fox Float X Performance that I got for $200 that weighs 484 grams. I bought this as a new takeoff from a Specialized Levo. It doesn't have as many adjustments, so no low speed compression, but there's a rebound and a 2-position pedal switch. But I know what people will comment, oh, this shock isn't tuned for the polygon linkage, oh! So just yesterday, I acquired another Fox Float X off of a polygon Siskiyou. Don't ask me how, but it is tuned for this frame so we can get the best test possible.
Oh man, this barely fits.
Well, after all the dilemmas with Chad's bikes, the bikes are almost ready to go. I just gotta wrap up the low bike, and I think my times are gonna be right up there with the high bike, no problem. Even though the suspension is beat up a little bit, I really like the look of this bike, and it just kind of adds to like the modest budget style, and it just flows together really nicely. And can I just take a moment, Chad, and just say your bike looks totally ridiculous right now? It looks like you're riding like a utility bike or something. What do you mean? This thing looks awesome. Sure, I got $2,800 suspension on a $1,500 bike, but we're going for performance and KOMs, right? So I'm gonna smoke you today on everything. The first trail test of the day is called Medieval. This is a fast flow trail that low bike set the fastest time of 39.7 in the first episode. And I don't really think suspension will make us faster on this trail, more likely the chunk trails, but let's give it a go and find out. So we're climbing up to the top of the castle. That's where all of our timed runs are. And man, this suspension is locked out because I'm pedaling and it is so smoother. I feel like it's more efficient too. I'm probably gonna be way faster on these climbs today. One thing I didn't mention is that our two forks have different air springs and it made a huge difference when setting them up. Highbike has a new Debonair Plus and is running 78 PSI at 30% sag, while Lowbike has a regular Debonair and I had to go to 110 PSI to get 30% sag. That's a huge difference and it has something to do with the negative air chamber in our forks, and my fork cannot be upgraded to that new Debonair Plus air spring. All right, first run, here we go. Big pedal. Gotta beat Chad. There's expensive suspension. Man, this bike's running fast, way faster than before. Yeah. All right. Wow, I did not expect the suspension to make me go faster on the flow trail. I was going like a couple miles per hour faster, but there was one section where I got kind of hung up on the chunky turn. That slowed me down for sure, and I'm gonna have to spend some time tuning it up a little bit better. But other than that, I think this suspension is gonna give Highbike a run for its money. Good luck, Chad, go get him. Finally, you're done yapping. My turn, I'm gonna smoke you, dude. All right, it's my turn, let's hit this. Yeah. Way smoother through that turn. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna win this one for sure. And time. Yeah. I felt a lot faster. It felt a lot more composed, and I can feel the chattery sections. It's actually much smoother than the low bike. I mean, one cool thing about this flight attendant is it'll firm up a little bit for the jumps. It's not fully open, and that really helps going a lot faster on the jumps. Dude, Chad, we both beat our times from episode 1. So low bike ran in the 38s, 2 seconds off the KOM for an average of 38.97. And high bike, oh, here we go. High bike set 2 times in the low 38s, bringing the average to 38.87. Oh, I won, yes, dude. But I want to bring in a new metric, cost per second. At 1.6 seconds improved and $500 cost, low bike is at $306 per second, and high bike with 1.7 seconds improved is $1,600 per second. Oof, good thing you paid for my parts. Yeah, dude, welcome to the law of diminishing returns. It's worth it in my book, but what were the climbing times? Well, we both had major improvements on our climb times. Well, yeah, both bikes were lighter. Low bike averaged 2 minutes 51 seconds, improving the stock times by 14 seconds on average, and high bike averaged 2 minutes 49 seconds, taking another category win. And the cost per second times were $35 for low bike and $170 for high bike. We're really seeing what the best value is here. So basically what you're saying is I'm up 2-0 and it's time for the chunky trail dragon scale. Good luck, bud. All right, man, I'm gonna give you a run for your money. All right, here we go, dragon scales. I gotta beat Chad, but it started raining. My tire feels a little low. Ugh. Rim strike. This bike does feel really poppy and playful though. I really like the overall feel of it. Oh, even though it's getting overwhelmed right there. Come on, beat Chad. Oh, rim strike. Whoa. And time. Man, that was a pretty wild ride. I mean, the bike felt good and playful, but on those really chunky sections, I mean, this thing would just get overwhelmed. If you guys have any ideas of what I can do to make this feel a little bit better, let me know in the comments. And there's something up with this rear tire. It's losing air. After run 1, I had to inflate it. It lost 4 PSI, and run number 3, it already felt low again. So I don't know what's going on there, but Chad, good luck, man. I think you got me on this one though. Now that I got a decent bike, let me show you how a former pro rides this trail. Hold my electrolytes. All right, here we go. Gotta beat Evan. Oh man, redo. These brakes are so bad. All right, here I go. It started raining pretty good though. Oh yeah. I gotta beat low bike. Oh yeah, expensive is always better. Yeah, almost hit a tree. Come on. Yeah. And time. Oh man. Bro, I am toasted from all this riding with this heavy bike, dude. So I don't know, that might affect my times, but I did notice that this suspension makes the bike so planted. It doesn't feel as playful as the low bike. The deeper I go into the shocks, the more it ramps up, and that's called progressive suspension, and that's the benefit of this really nice stuff. The low bike, that rear shock is really flat feeling, but hey, that could be a Fox versus RockShox thing. I don't know, you tell me, but let's go check out those times. So we making this 3-0 or what? I beat your times? Nah, dude, that's not possible. Okay, well, the times don't lie. So last episode, the low bike with the tires set a time of 1 minute 5 seconds. The average with tubes was 1 minute 8 seconds. Well, we both shattered those times today, and I was right at 1 minute and 1 second. Give me that, you're reading too slow. No, dude, this can't be right. My best time was a minute flat, but then as the runs went on, I got progressively worse, and on average, you beat me, dude. Heck yeah, man, low bike suspension on top. Oh man, that's not fair, I got tired. If we take out my worst time, I got you beat by half a second. Whatever helps you sleep at night, man. I actually think that was a pretty interesting test. Even though the low bike felt faster and more playful, high bike suspension definitely proved to have a premium feel, much softer in the initial stroke and more supportive at the bottom. But check this out. If we combine all the time tests together and look at the cost per second saved over stock at $25 per second, this proves to me that mid-level suspension upgrades is how to get the best value. Yeah, man, if you don't have $2,800 for those marginal gains, well shoot, buy a used Lyric Ultimate for like 500 bucks. So what'd you think about the suspension? It's weird, the whole season low bike felt better and had more mid-stroke support. The high bike suspension was nice, it's soft, it felt like a pillow, and it handled big drops much better. But over time, I found myself liking low bike suspension much more. And I probably could have spent some time tuning the high bike stuff, probably by adding more low speed compression. But yeah, right now I am in a cast, and you'll find out why during the finale of this whole season video. But now onto my favorite round of upgrades for this season, contact points. I just spent $1,800 improving the feel of my bike. And I just spent $400 improving the feel of my bike. Does expensive equal better? Let's find out. We have two nearly identical full suspension mountain bikes that we've been modifying to become high performance trail bikes. One gets expensive parts and one gets cheap parts. Then after each episode, the bikes are returned back to stock with the exception of tires and pedals. That way we can test them to see which parts are worth spending your hard-earned money on. Today we have a whole slew of parts to install to improve the feel of our bikes, often called contact points. Your contact points are the connection with your machine, and to merge man with machine, upgrading your contact points can make a huge difference for 3 reasons. Number 1 is control, and your contact points give you the confidence to negotiate through rough mountain bike trails to absorb the bumps and vibrations so you can grip it and rip it. Number 2 is comfort. If your bike is stiff or you just aren't comfortable with your setup, you can develop arm pump. And that's when you're riding over bumpy mountain bike trails and you may be gripping a little bit too tight. That causes your forearm muscles to get pumped up. The muscles swell up so much that it cuts off the blood flow to your hands and they go numb and you lose grip strength. That's super dangerous and can lead to crashes, but luckily a lot of our upgrades today will help avoid that. Number 3 is looks. When you look good, you feel good. And that may sound funny to some beta males out there, but when you love your bike, you love the way it looks, you're gonna have more confidence and just be happier when riding it. So to achieve these 3 goals, we bought 6 contact point upgrades for our bikes. Grips, bars, stem, dropper posts, seat, and brakes. Altogether, my upgrades cost $1,800, and mine cost $400. And in this episode, we're gonna install all 6 of our contact point upgrades, talk about how each one of them should work in theory, and then put them head to head on the trail to see how they perform. Let's get this started. With the stock bar and stem, they're not bad, but they feel pretty heavy and I'm sure they're built super strong to avoid warranty claims. Oh, that's heavy. I consider a cockpit upgrade to be a part of the tuning process, getting the bike personalized for you, and aftermarket handlebars are built with user experience in mind, designed by really smart engineers with decades of experience. So I went with 1UP carbon bars and a 1UP stem for $250. Together weighing 415 grams. 1UP carbon bars are known for their vertical compliance, able to flex up and down to absorb trail vibrations, basically like suspension for your hands. Yeah, I really like 1UP carbon bars. I use them on a lot of my builds. They feel like snappy when you're dancing through the single track, and they do reduce hand fatigue, but I don't have the budget for those on low bike, so I went with their aluminum version, the new 1UP aluminum bar. 1UP claims that they have the same vertical compliance, just like the carbon, because the shape is the same. Plus the aluminum is more durable, but it is a little bit heavier. So these bikes feel a little small. They're mediums and I'm 5'9". I feel a little bit crammed and I probably should have went with a large, but there's some things I can do to help that. So if we go with longer stems, say 50 millimeters, maybe we won't feel so crammed, and it also shifts our weight forward, which helps with front end traction. I could have bought a Zoom stem off Amazon for like 10 bucks, but I have a used Renthal stem on hand that I bought for $50. It sounds kind of weird, but buying a used stem is a great way to get a discount on a part that doesn't offer any performance. It just looks cool. So grips come down to your personal preference, but we really want to compare the aluminum versus carbon bars, so both bikes are going to get the same grips. These are the 1UP thick grips. They have a soft rubber compound with some ridges for that locked in feel, plus a bulge for your palm, all this to maximize grip and minimize arm pump. Oh, and just a reminder, if you want to buy any of these parts, any of our tools, or even get one of these polygons for yourself, use our link in the description. Man, when did you become such an influencer? I'll even throw a 10% off coupon code down there for you too. Thankfully, these days, almost all mountain bikes are sold with a dropper post. The stock dropper is a Trans X with 150 millimeters of travel. It works fine, it goes up kind of slow sometimes, but the dropper lever is a generic, cheapy little thing hinging on a small bolt and taking a lot of force to push in and activate the dropper. So for my budget, I'm going to upgrade the lever only and see if that makes a difference. I bought a 1UP V3 dropper remote for $60. This hinges on a huge bearing that takes way less force to activate the dropper, plus a rubber thumb pad. This is pretty cool. And I went with one of the best upgrades in the world, the RockShox Reverb Axis Dropper for $861. This is fully electronic, no messing with cables, and it's the fastest dropper that I've ever used. I love these things. Plus, the way to install the seat is pretty slick, and if you've ever changed out your seat, you know what I mean. Well, my dropper lever upgrade does feel a lot better, but I just noticed a big problem. This seat post collar is completely cracked. Why is your bike always breaking, dude? Yeah, dude, I think the low bike might be cursed. The reason why this is a problem is I could activate the dropper and this collar could just break off and the seat post just flies right out. Haha, yeah, ejecto-cito, cuz. Yeah, so I'm stealing your dropper for safety reasons. Upgrading your brakes is important to anyone trying to go fast on the trail. Intense repeated braking can lead to brake fade, and that's when your brakes become so hot, they become less effective. Our stock Shimano MT200s have two pistons front and rear with 180mm rotors. These aren't bad, they stop you, they get the job done, but they do lack braking power, requiring me to pull in the brakes earlier to counteract the lack of power. And more time spent pulling the brakes means more chance of brake fade and also fatigues the rider. So we're both going to be doubling our piston count, going to 4 piston brakes front and rear, and I'm going with SRAM's DB8 brakes that were $150, and Highbike gets the all-new Maven Ultimate that were $600. So let's compare the differences between both brakes. Both brakes use mineral oil, something new for SRAM. They usually use dot fluid. Both have 4 ceramic pistons, but the Mavens are much larger. Plus the Maven caliper is larger in size and supposedly handles heat a lot better. Well, the Maven has extra large pads compared to the DB8s, and the big difference is the brake lever itself. Inside it has a swing link, so the closer the lever gets to the grip, the more braking power that you have. But for consistency, I want to use the same size rotor as stock, so we'll both get SRAM HS2 180mm rotors so we can see which brake kit is the best. Well, everything is installed, just a few little odds and ends to take care of, and then we can take these to the trail. Well, this has been my favorite episode to date on this high-low. Just the customization, like these bikes look so cool now. And I rode both bikes last night getting the brakes bedded in. Dude, what is up with your brake hose? Dude, I had to watch my kids all weekend. My wife was out of town. But anyway, when I rode this bike yesterday, I got a little bit of arm pump with those stock bars, so I'm hoping that this will solve that. But first up is the braking test. We're gonna climb this hill here, come screaming around the corner. Once we hit this cone, apply full force braking to see which brakes stop earlier. With this little customization, you know, the new grips, a longer stem, this bike feels like it's completely different. I'm shocked, dude. All right, here we go, no pedals. I'm just coasting from the top. All right, 25 miles an hour, 26, here it goes. There it is, right there. That's a long braking distance. Oh, man. All right, my turn. All right, here we go, getting up speed, 26 miles an hour. Here it goes. Oh. Wow. Dang, man, that was a huge difference from the Mavens. That's like 10, 20 feet right there. So the Mavens are definitely more powerful, but let's go see how it works on the trail. Oh, real quick, before we get lap times, I want to see which dropper is faster. I'm just going to turn slow motion on this camera. All right, we're set up, we're ready to go in 3, 2, 1, go. Man, I'm actually super surprised. Just replacing the lever on this one completely fixed the slow seat post problem I was having. But if you've ever messed with a Reverb Axis dropper, this is the fastest, most responsive dropper in the game. It's actually kind of scary when it comes up and hits you in the butt sometimes. So High Bike wins this one if we're talking about the best, but if we're talking about best value, Low Bike wins. $50 lever, fix my problems. Next up is the small bump compliance test, and we're going back to the trusty medieval flow trail because that has been getting chewed up by the rain. It is super rocky right now, and it's a perfect test to see if these bars and grips can help reduce arm pump, and we'll see if they're faster too. Well, everybody said that they want me to go first, so here it goes, medieval, dropping. Definitely a lot smoother on this chattery section, but the biggest difference is the turning. Oh, way better body positioning. Yeah. Feels slower though. Oh yeah. That felt pretty good, dude. I really think it was the grips and the stem making the biggest difference. I mean, I can't really tell because we're back with a cheap, crappy suspension, so good luck, Evan. All right, here we go. Yeah. Oh yeah, it turns so well. Yeah. Oh yeah. Feels faster than High Bike. All right. As much as I wanted to say that these aluminum bars are just as good as the carbon bars, I feel like the carbon bars have a little bit better compliance because I had a little bit of arm pump after that run. But overall, I really feel like this bike is faster, and it's because it's lighter. I don't know why it's so much lighter. I have no clue. But let's still go see the times. High bike ran an average of 40.1, half a second faster than stock, and low bike, after going after high bike, was consistently faster at 1.5 seconds. That brings the contact points cost per second saved on Medieval to $213, and that's better value than the suspension. And I really think it came down to personalizing the stem, but now it's time for some chunk. Believe it or not, powerful brakes can make you faster. So on our next trail, Dragon Scales, there's some tight corners that require braking. Well, with my new powerful brakes, I can brake as late as possible because I know that I can stop. Also, I'm not sure if this has a name, but these powerful brakes allow me to do a quick stab, and then I can actually push off the bars and change lines, and that's how I'm gonna go set a PR right now. Oh, can't wait for this one. One pedal off the top. Here we go. Yeah. Oh yeah. So much more control than before. Whoa, the bad line though. Yeah. I missed my flight attendant though. Oh. Yeah. Whoa. Man, that was crazy. Well, that went all right. I definitely noticed that I could brake a little bit later, go a little bit faster, and it was good to see that I was 5 seconds faster than stock. I've always liked one-up bars because they're like secondary suspension, but with the stock suspension, the one-up bars can only really flex so much, and it still felt like I was riding stock suspension, so I would definitely upgrade the fork before the bars. But hey, what are you doing with my bike? Dude, I think I got like multiple slices in my tire. It is going flat. I gotta borrow this back wheel, dude. All right, here we go, my turn. Let's get this. Yeah. Okay, here we go, heavy braking. A little bit less power than those Mavens. I definitely have to drag the brakes a little longer than those Mavens. I think that would slow me down in the long run. Whoa. Wow. And time. Dang, dude, new series record. Finally got under a minute. No way, dude, how? I think I just had a super good line on one of the chicanes. I went to go slow down and it didn't slow me down like the Mavens, and I was going a lot faster and I just kind of went with it, hooked a super good line, and I think I just maintained a lot more speed that way. Dang it, man. See, I should have went second, but on the finale, when we install all the parts on these bikes, man, I'm gonna smoke low bike. So contact points are weird. If we take the cost per second from the Climb, Medieval, and Dragon Scales, combine those together, suspension was actually a better cost per second value, but with contact points, it's like, I always say, if it makes you happy and makes you comfortable, I say buy whatever you can afford and it's always gonna be worth it. Yeah, I wonder if these are worth it though. What is that? How much did you spend?
I did eventually install a 200mm front rotor with the DB8 brakes, and I had plenty of stopping power for my type of trails, but I still think Code R brakes are much more powerful than the DB8s. Someone commented that they could tell my DB8 brake pads were contaminated due to the squealing on the brake test, so I swapped them out to metallic pads just to be safe for the final episode, and yeah, the squealing was gone. After this third episode, I started having problems with the Specialized Eliminator tires. I know I said earlier that they're like Enduro light tires, but after using them the whole season, my mind has changed. I think they're just kind of standard trail tires and they don't have that great of puncture or pinch flat protection. So if you ride rough stuff or ride hard, I'd avoid the Eliminator Grid T9 and probably choose like a Grid Trail or just an entirely different brand or something. As of right now, both bikes have flat rear tires, but that happened on the final episode, so stay tuned. Now, time for wheels and drivetrain.
I just bought a set of wheels and drivetrain for $3,000. And I just bought new wheels and a new drivetrain for $800. But just because mine costs 4 times as much, does that mean it's 4 times better? Let's find out. We have 2 nearly identical full suspension mountain bikes that we've been modifying to become high performance trail bikes. One gets expensive parts and one gets cheap parts. Then after each episode, the bikes are returned back to stock with the exception of tires and pedals. That way we can test them to see which parts are worth spending your hard-earned money on. This whole season, low bike has been a pound lighter than high bike, and I thought it was the cranks. These cranks are a little bit different, and it turns out high bike stock cranks were 100 grams heavier, but that's not a pound, so I don't know what's going on there. There's a lot of terminology when it comes to bike wheels. One is radial compliance, and that means when a rim deforms vertically under load. So when you're hitting rocks, the wheel will flex, basically ovalize to absorb bumps. Then you have lateral compliance, and that's when a rim deforms with side-to-side movement. Stock wheels that come on your bikes, especially budget bikes, are basically made to get you rolling off this showroom floor, and that's it. And when wheels are heavy, stiff, and not compliant, the bumps that you hit won't be absorbed, but instead be transferred up through your frame into your shocks. But if your shocks can't handle that, it gets transferred into the rider. Stiff wheels have their place though. Take the DT Swiss FR541. This is made for free riders that hit like 50-foot jumps. And yeah, the rims are super strong, super stiff, but when you're going 40 miles per hour, I'm sure it's pretty compliant at those speeds. But if we were to use that same rim on our trails going 15 to 25 miles per hour, we're gonna be getting rattled. So I went with Crank Brothers Synthesis Enduro carbon wheels for $16.99, weighing 1,900 grams. These wheels are tricked out, tuned differently front and rear. The front rim is just a little bit wider by 2 millimeters because, you know, the rear wheel usually holds most of your body weight and takes the bulk of the impacts, so it gets the thicker spokes. The front has lighter spokes to be more flexy and reduce trail chatter into your hands. These wheels are more complex than I can explain in one video, but the cool thing is, these rims come with a lifetime warranty. Well, Chad is pretty good at repeating brand talking points, but what he didn't mention is that carbon rims are notoriously stiffer than aluminum rims, but it sounds like their engineers did a lot to tune them, so that's good to hear. But I went with Hunt trail wide wheels on sale for $400. These weigh less than high bike's wheels at 1830 grams. Despite being so affordable, Hunt wheels are hand built and tuned for comfort and durability with 30 millimeters internal width. Aluminum rims are more prone to dings and dents, but Hunt says they really focused on impact resistance with these wheels. And the cool thing is, they both came pre-taped for tubeless with the valves installed, so this upgrade is gonna be a breeze. These are the tires that we installed on both bikes. Specialized Eliminator Grid T9 that saved us 300 grams a piece. They're on sale right now for just $40 a piece. I'll have a link in the description. The sidewall is pretty thick, the rubber is soft, and they're great tires for pushing our bikes to the limit to get fast times on our trails. Let's talk drivetrain upgrades. I had originally planned on making this its own episode, but I cannot think of a good reason why you'd spend hundreds of dollars replacing a 12-speed with a 12-speed other than the weight, but I guess we'll find that out later. So I went with the trusty SRAM GX group set with cranks and cassette for $360. This will save me 560 grams compared to the stock group set, and I gained 2 features that I love. SRAM derailleurs have a cage lockout for taking your wheel on and off really easily, and a B-gap tool makes setting up the shifting super easy. And because we listened, because you guys want our test to be somewhat close, I also went with the GX group set, but the wireless version, because I'm bougie like that. The Axis trailer is battery powered, no shifting cable needed. It cleans up the cockpit really nicely. The battery lasts for like 40 days or something, really not that bad. And I think wireless shifting is super crisp and faster than cable. So I'm installing a new shifter, but I'm reusing the old cable housing, which is totally okay. I'll just put a couple drops of tri-flow in there, and that's really gonna make the shifting super smooth. Other than wheels, cranks and cassettes are big areas where we can save weight. So I'm going with some carbon cranks, SRAM X01 and an X01 cassette, both saving me 608 grams over stock. This X01 cassette is a 10 to 52 tooth 12 speed. It's made out of two pieces, aluminum and steel, but the aluminum portion is machined out of one block of aluminum, whereas the low bike's GX axis has all the gears riveted together, and I've seen and heard multiple people wear out these little rivets, and then it starts creaking, and then you got to replace it and get a new one. So I think spending a little bit of money on a nice cassette is a great investment. It'll last you way longer, many, many years, and it's a great way to future-proof your bike. I'm almost ready to install the back wheel, but there's one last upgrade I want to do, and that's replace these axles. I got some 1-up axles. I got the red one in the front, red accent in the back, and they may be 40 grams heavier, but I just think they're sick, man. Well, High Bike just got finished and I just weighed the thing, and you guys are gonna be blown away how much weight that lost. But I gotta get my bike all tuned up, ready to go, and I'll see you on the trail. Man, 4 pounds saved the wheels and drivetrain. I don't want to sound like a weight weenie, but that is a huge deal. And just picking these bikes up now, I mean, it feels like a completely different bike, and this should really transform how it rides on the trail. But Chad, your bike's still heavier. What happened? But I was close though. I ended up taking off my water bottle cage, you know, with the CO2 and the storage and everything. And that thing weighed 200 grams. So now the weight, I guess, is in my accessories, you know, the 1-up EDC light and the 1-up bash guard chain guide. But I need those. Those are non-negotiable. So we're back at Slaughter Pen, back in Bentonville, Arkansas, and I'm gonna go test out a climb trail with a little tech section to see how the shifting does and to see how good these hubs are. So this is the 3rd generation Axis pod shifter, and last season I had the 2nd generation, but I didn't really like it. It was kind of slow. But on the bike stand, this pod shifter makes the GX axis way faster than the cable. This pod shifter is amazing. I love it. Another big difference with these wheels is the hub engagement. These Hunt wheels have 72 points of engagement. Well, the High Bike with the Industry 9 hubs has like 690 or something like that. So there's a tech section right behind me, and that's where it would really make a difference. So let's test it out, see if I notice. That was too easy. 72 points of engagement, that's plenty, man. Man, Evan's crazy. High engagement definitely matters. I mean, oh yeah, I love that sound, dude. All right, that's enough talk of the drivetrain. Let's head to the castle and see how much better my wheels are.
Coming up, we'll be doing time runs on Medieval, a flow trail, and Dragon Scales, a chunk trail. To get to the top, we climbed a trail called Lombard. Our upgraded bikes were much lighter, so we didn't have to be in the easiest gear as much, and it took a lot less energy to get to the top.
All right, one pedal off the top, no brakes. This trail feels smooth now. Well, these wheels definitely felt like they were hugging the ground, but on that trail, they also felt kind of stiff at the same time. So this whole season, I've been running 22 PSI in the back, 20 in the front, but with these wheels, it actually felt like I needed to let some air out of my tires. It was weird, but overall, these wheels felt way faster than stock. I almost pulled my brakes a few times, but I didn't. All right, Medieval, here we go. Way better line on that turn. Trail chatter is just as muted. Holding speed well. Yeah. Well, low bike definitely felt faster on those runs, but we'll see the times. The trail chatter was really muted. I could hardly even feel the bumps, and these Hunt wheels held their speed really well. I'm surprised for 400 bucks. Okay, the times are in and I'm speechless. So high bike ran 39.56 and low bike is at 39.46. And those times are so dang close. We have not seen that kind of consistency all season. Hey, even though you beat me by 1/10 of a second, it's too close to declare a winner. No way, dude. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird that our times are tied because my bike felt way faster. But up next is Dragon Scales, the chunky trail that's really going to show lateral and vertical compliance. You're up, Chad. All right, this is where it matters most. Chunk trail. Oh yeah, I turned that so good. This feels way effortless. I feel like I have way more traction. I can carve better. Wow. Wow, that run was way smoother, and that's that vertical compliance. But the biggest difference was the lateral compliance. Right away on the first turn, I could feel that my wheels flexed a little bit and helped me turn, and it also dug my tires into the ground. Man, I felt like I was hooking lines and carving everything. Well, let me know in the comments, have you guys tried carbon wheels before? I don't think these aluminum wheels on low bikes stand a chance, but good luck, bro. All right, here we go, my turn. Chunk trail, yeah. I can already tell it's a little stiffer. Rolls fast though. Heavy braking, whoa. It's not hooking a line like the carbon rims, I'll say that. Yeah, man, a couple of those big hits still
hurt, man. So I think the vertical compliance isn't quite as good as the carbon wheels. And then as for the lateral compliance, remember high bike was hook and line and carving turns. I didn't really feel that on low bike, so I'm kind of curious. I think high bike has me beat on this one. All right, let's hear those times. Dude, we were close. So high bike ran a minute flat. Well, low bike ran 2/10 faster, a minute 35. Dude, this is crazy. It doesn't matter if low bike goes first, second, every single downhill run except one time, low bike wins. Ever since High-Low Season 1, I've always thought that wheels were the best performance upgrade for your bike, but if we look at the cost per second for this episode, it tells a completely different story. If we combine all the times from the flow, the chunk, and the climbs, at $84 cost per second, it's almost triple the cost per second from episode 2, proving to me that suspension is the most cost-effective way to make your bike faster. Yeah, but I will say, upgrading the wheels made the stock suspension feel pretty good. Definitely didn't feel like stock suspension anymore. But hey, aren't you supposed to flash a new upgrade for next episode? Not this time, because next episode, the finale of High-Low Season 2, we're gonna combine all the parts together to see once and for all if expensive equals better. I'll see you then.
I really learned so much from that wheel upgrade. For years since High-Low Season 1, I thought carbon wheels were the end-all be-all, but now I really don't see myself buying a new set of carbon wheels for retail pricing. Now every bike that I get, I'll install some Hunt wheels because they're so inexpensive and they really unlock the bike's potential. I'm also super eager to try out a bunch of different premium aluminum wheels. Well, that is in about a month or so after I get this cast off and I'm cleared to ride. But now it's time to install all the parts on both bikes for a head-to-head test to find out once and for all if expensive upgrades are worth it.
This is a Polygon Siskiyou T6 that I upgraded for a total of $8,000. And this is a Polygon Siskiyou T7 that I upgraded for a total of $1,900. But just because this bike costs 4 times as much, does that mean it's 4 times better? To find out, we're going to Lake Leatherwood Gravity Project, an enduro park that's treacherous and downright terrifying for our trail bikes. It's finally time to fully upgrade these bikes and put them head-to-head on some big boy trails. All this to answer one question. Does expensive equal better? Let's find out. And why is my hand in a brace? But before we get to that, we should probably talk about how we got here.
We started with 2 nearly identical Polygon Siskiyous thanks to our friends at Bikes Online, and we've been modifying them to be time attack bikes. Bikes that we can take to our local trails, break personal records, and maybe get a KOM here or there. One got expensive parts and one got cheap parts. Then we've been testing them to see which parts are worth spending your hard-earned money on. After each episode, the bikes are returned back to stock and the next round of upgrades is installed and the process started all over. But on this episode, the finale of High-Low Season 2, we're installing all the parts on the bikes together to see once and for all if expensive equals better. Before the season started, I hit the trails to get some base times with one of the bikes bone stock, tubes and all, and oh boy, that was heavy. After many runs, the average climb trail time was 3 minutes 17 seconds. Then on the flow trail called Medieval, I went 40.6 seconds. Last up was a chunk trail called Dragon Scales, and the stock bike got 1 minute 8 seconds. It was slow. Our bikes came with these insanely heavy V tires, more suited for enduro or downhill bikes. Well, I installed some specialized tires saving 300 grams a piece, while High Bike used the stock tires but just went tubeless. So the first test basically went tubes versus tubeless versus trail tires. And no surprise to me, going tubeless improved our times on Dragon Scales by 1 second. While Low Bike with its tubeless and upgraded tires went 3 seconds faster. The upgraded tires also lightened the bike by 2.5 pounds and was much easier to climb. So moving forward, we installed these specialized tires on both bikes for the rest of the season for consistency. Next was episode 2, our first big upgrades, suspension. High Bike got a set of $3,000 electronic suspension. This works with a pedal sensor that can automatically lock out your shocks when climbing. And I installed a set of used suspension that I bought for $500, a RockShox Lyric Select Plus and a Fox Float X in the rear. Surprisingly, Low Bike's fork has the same damper as High Bike's fork. The Lyric Select Plus does have a different air spring and required 30 more PSI to get the same amount of sag. Immediately, both bikes saw a massive improvement to our climbing times by about 15 seconds on a 3-minute climb. And imagine if you're climbing for an hour, man, that would be a huge difference. On the Flow Trail Medieval, I had my doubts if the suspension would help us. It may look smooth on camera, but it is actually pretty rocky and turned out to be the perfect test for small bump compliance. My bike got a time of 38.87, almost 2 seconds faster than stock, while low bike was slower, 38.97. Then I introduced a metric called cost per second to really show the value of our upgrades. My $500 suspension was 1.6 seconds faster than stock, so it was $306 cost per second. And that right there is what we call the law of diminishing returns. Worth it. With our upgraded suspension, we went down dragon scale. We were blown away by how much better the bikes felt. My suspension felt plush, almost like I was riding on a pillow, and my time was 1 minute 1.58 seconds. And here, low bike just felt different. It was lively, it was poppy, it was more playful. And after crossing the line, turns out my bike went faster, 1 minute 1.51 seconds. Combining all the times together from this episode, we both improved nearly 20 seconds over stock. The high bike's cost per second was 5 times that of low bike. But the ride quality with the expensive upgrades was noticeably more luxurious feeling. Next up, we upgraded our contact points. We did the brakes, bars, stems, grips, and I got a new dropper post. Overall, I spent $1,800. And I spent $400. The biggest differences were the bars and the brakes. And I got 1-up aluminum bars while high bike got 1-up carbon bars. Then my bike went with SRAM DV8 4-piston brakes, and high bike got the all-new SRAM Maven Ultimate 4-piston brakes. After betting in the brakes, we did 1 brake test each on the road, and low bike's DV8 brakes were way down on power compared to my brakes. But that would actually work in my favor on dragon scales. High bike went first and got 1 minute 2.6 seconds, while low bike was going fast, and I could not slow myself down because the brakes weren't that powerful. But I just kind of went with it. I hooked a line, carved a crazy turn, almost hit a tree, and crossing the line, I clocked the first sub 1 minute, averaging both runs to 1 minute flat, 2 seconds faster than high bike, and 7 seconds faster over stock. Yeah, who would have thought brakes make you faster? We're both 5'9" and the bikes are mediums. Honestly, we probably should have went with the large, so swapping out the stock 35mm long stem and going with 50mm stems made the bikes feel completely different and changed our body positions for the better. Overall, combining the times for a cost per second, it showed that suspension was actually a better value when improving speed. Although looking back, most of the time gained for this episode was probably just changing out the stem, and doing that alone would probably be the most cost-effective performance upgrade. Our last upgrades would be the biggest change to our bikes and the most expensive: wheels and drivetrain. High bike got a carbon wheel set for $1,700 and a tricked out wireless drivetrain for $1,500. While low bike got the same model drivetrain but cable actuated for $521 and a new aluminum wheel set for $400. On the trail, the bikes were way lighter. Both bikes had the biggest weight loss out of any episode, and high bike lost 4 pounds over stock. With both bikes losing around 4 pounds or 2 kilos, you'd expect the climb times to be way better, but they were just about the same as the suspension upgrades, 2 minutes 50 seconds. I've always believed that wheels are the biggest performance upgrade that you could do to your bike, so I went first on Medieval, and the carbon wheels, they felt fast, they felt compliant, and I clocked a time of 39.56, about a second faster over stock. Low bike also felt compliant, and the aluminum wheels felt like they rolled faster than the stock wheels, and I clocked a time of 39.46, so I went faster than a high bike with the carbon wheels. But I wasn't worried because my premium wheels should really show the performance benefit on dragon scales. I dropped in and I instantly felt the wheels flex in a good way. I was hooking lines, carving turns. I felt stable, I felt fast, and I set a PR for high bike at 1 minute flat. There's no way low bike could really beat me with how good these carbon wheels felt. Well, it turns out low bike is fast too. I may not have felt the lateral compliance or the improved traction. I even felt like the Hunt wheels were a little stiff on the big hits, but they still held their speed very well, and I crossed a line 2/10 faster than high bike. However, each episode we were running the upgrades in isolation, with the stock parts potentially holding my bike back. The full benefits of my expensive parts can work synergistically with one another, and that meant one thing. It was finally time to install all the upgrades on our bike. $8,000 worth of upgrades versus $1,900 worth of upgrades to finally find out if expensive equals better. The plan today is to get our final times on our test trails here in Bentonville to see if we can break some PRs, maybe even get some KOMs before heading to a trail system that will really test these bikes to their absolute limits. Taking our first pedals up the climb trail Lombard, our bikes felt so different and so unlike the stock bikes, and it felt like we were riding different bikes. The lighter weight was a huge difference, and we were able to climb up Lombard in a harder gear, not the granny gear like usual, and it wasn't that exhausting. After 4 times up the climb trail, high bike averaged 2 minutes 45 seconds, 30 seconds faster on average compared to the stock bike. And low bike, well, let's just say I'm not really sure what happened here. Low bike averaged 2 minutes 27 seconds, 20 seconds faster than high bike, and 50 seconds faster than stock. Well, look, I race enduro, I'm a former pro, and we don't even count the climbing times. And next up was Medieval, and I was ready to break some PRs. Remember how we said that Medieval was pretty bumpy? Well, my bike felt none of that anymore. I could tell I was going faster than before, and I crossed the line, breaking a high bike PR of 37:59. But low bike would not be denied. It's the little bike that could. I also set a PR 37:29, just 1 second off my KOM earlier this year. Well, I had one last chance to avenge high bike and finally get a win. I was determined to finally dip under 1 minute on Dragon scales, and I was not holding back. Not gonna happen. The biggest takeaway from these runs is just how loud and rattly our bikes were. The chains were slapping, the cables were rubbing. One thing's for sure, after 25 runs on this trail for the season, we were going as hard as possible and pushing these bikes to the limit. And let me tell you, for the first time, low bike felt like it could not go any faster. It was getting overwhelmed, and it was also getting kind of sketchy. High bike didn't have that problem though. I felt pretty comfortable pushing the limits on a high bike. I felt like I could go even a little bit harder, and I crossed the line with a 58:54, just 1/100th faster than low bike. Wait, 1/100th? All of your thousands of dollars of upgrades just to be 100th faster? Dude, a win is a win. Those times are just too close to really know if expensive is better or not. And then if we take a look at the combined times for cost per second, it looks like all the parts that added together actually improve the value of the speed gained. But we're gonna need to hit some bigger, gnarlier trails. The full benefits of all the upgrades will show themselves on a trail with longer runs, more elevation, and higher top speed. A trail system like the world famous Lake Leatherwood. So we packed the car and headed just about an hour from Bentonville to Eureka Springs, Arkansas for the legendary Lake Leatherwood Gravity Project. I love these trails, way more challenging than Bentonville. There's a shuttle service and even a motel at the trailhead. They're also running a sleep and stay special if you use this code on the screen right here. Trails here are nearly half a mile long with 350 feet of elevation drop. The trail we'll be testing is called DH2 with a little bit of everything. Turns, jumps, drops, and a lot of rocks. And I think it's the perfect trail to help determine if expensive equals better.
All right, first lap done at Lake Leatherwood. And normally this place is for enduro bikes. So with our trail bikes here, we're a little underbiked. But you know, we spent a lot of money to make these bikes more capable, so we should be all right. There's a decent drop in the middle of the trail, and I was a little bit nervous to hit it, not gonna lie. But after eyeing it up, I just sent the thing. It wasn't that bad. But there's a series of drops after that I'm calling the 3-stair, and man, those hits are harsh on our bikes. Normally when you come here, you ride the shuttle, but you can also climb to the top on Miners Loop. It's a 350-foot climb within a half mile, and I figure we both hit it one time to settle the score on which bike is better at climbing. All right, Chad, you're up first since I messed up the castle climb. Go for it. In 3, 2, 1, go. All right, looks like the time to beat is 12:15. Trail's clear, you're good to go. All right, here it comes. Dang, 20 seconds faster, so our castle runs were not a fluke. Low bike is definitely a better climber. I could feel it, but I do want to say that I feel like my heart rate was a little bit higher, so maybe that's a variable that has to be thrown out, but I really felt like this is a better climber. But now it's time to hit the downhill runs.
Lake Leatherwood is chunky, so the night before I added Cush core to both bikes in the rear. I wanted a little bit of protection for the rim, it protects the tire from pinching, and it smooths out the trail for the rider too. Plus, both bikes have been swapped to metallic brake pads with a 200mm front rotor. And Chad was up first.
Yeah, buddy, best of 2 runs. Just gotta give it that old Hawk Tua. Dropping! Dang, man, first drop in, timed run, got a flat. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to pump it up and see if I can just run this thing.
I had just added more sealant 12 hours prior, but the hole was not sealing. We tried inflating the tire, but it just would not hold, and this tire was cooked.
This tire's broken, man, so I'm gonna go put on the low bike's back wheel, because who cares if I break that back wheel? All right, be right back.
I was pretty bummed not to do my runs with the carbon rear wheel, but the Hunt wheel is technically lighter, but my hope was that it just didn't throw off the feel of the bike.
All right, step number 2, here we go. Oh, man, I almost just died.
What happened there, bud? Dude, I have no clue. I think it was that cheap back wheel, honestly. So I headed back up for what, my 3rd attempt now?
I feel like I restarted in a video game. All right, run number 3. Let's do this.
I was definitely missing my enduro bike on these 2 runs. The high bike is definitely capable of completing these trails, but going for time runs is another story. It was sketchy. On the big hits, sometimes I'd go kaplow, full on bottom out, even with my expensive suspension. I also didn't feel super planted when it came to traction, but overall, these runs felt pretty good, and I was excited to see my time. Heck yeah, man. 235.92 was my best time. The bike did great, but I will say that the suspension was maybe a little too soft, or we would call that over-damped. I checked my best time from last year on my enduro bike and it was at 3 minutes, 2 seconds. So high bike was hauling and I was kind of worried. Low bike felt like it was at its limit on the final runs at Dragon Scales, and the last thing that I want to do is crash from pushing too hard. So I figured I'll just take it easy and see what happens. Throughout this entire high-low season, low bike has always felt more playful, it felt faster, the times it was usually faster, and it really translated on the run. I had more traction, I had more support in the turns, and I had completely forgotten about the expensive pedals, carbon bars. It didn't feel any different on this run. I was getting through all the hard technical lines, feeling so proud of this inexpensive bike, and I was looking forward to see how much faster low bike was. That was until oh, ow, oh, ow. Man, I do not know what happened there. I was feeling confident and just my tire went off the trail, just washed out. Totally my fault. But man, I hurt my thumbs pretty bad. Yeah, I got a little road rash here, but it's my thumbs that are hurting pretty bad. So I don't even know if I can do another run. I'm still gonna give it a go. So wish me luck, man. My thumb is still not back to normal. It's not broken, I had it checked out, but I don't give up that easily. Without a solid timed run, how was I gonna be able to look you in the eye and say if expensive is better or not? So I went to the top with my limited grip strength to see if I could still salvage a run to cap off this season. All right, here it goes. With my thumb weakened, I was searching for the smoothest lines. The biggest difference was I couldn't use the front brake as much as I wanted to. During this run, I just felt thankful that I could do all the lines, and I was motivated to get across that line because of everyone's love and support for this high-low series. I wasn't worried about beating high bike anymore. I just felt like it was my job to make it across that finish line. So dude, what was your final time? So going off video times, not Strava or GPS, those are too inconsistent. High bike ran 235.92, while my low bike run with my hurt hand, I went 235.75. Yes, dude. So after all that, all the expensive upgrades with my injury, low bike was faster across the board, giving me proof that expensive does not equal better. Yeah, I agree. Knowing what we know now, here's our opinion on where to spend your money. I'm still on the fence with these tires. Both bikes have a flat rear tire right now, but you can get away with low-cost bars, grips, and drivetrain, but spend a little bit extra money on suspension and brakes. It doesn't have to be top tier, and if you do that, you're gonna have a killer bike. Thank you so much for watching this season of High Low. I just appreciate all the views, all the comments, and I really wish I could have 20 times more comments. It really makes my day, and I just love this little community that we built. And let me know what you want to see next on this channel. This stuff is for you guys. Peace.